My name is Jason, and this is Just Watches. Today we have a watch that was lent in for a review from Ocean Crawler. Now, Ocean Crawler is an American watchmaking company that specializes in self-winding and automatic mechanical watches, and this is one of the newer versions of their Core Diver. However, before we get to the review, if you're enjoying the contents of this channel, I invite you to subscribe, and if you're enjoying the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much. As for price and availability, at the time of this recording, this watch is currently available on the Ocean Crawler website in a number of different colorways for a price of $999. Now, this is definitely a larger watch, coming in at 44 millimeters in diameter, 50 millimeters lug to lug, 15.5 millimeters thick, and then it has a 22 millimeter lug with opening. On the stock rubber strap, it weighs in at 141 grams. Now, the case is primarily brushed with a high polished chamfer running along the full length of the mid case. The case has a gentle curve throughout, and despite its large size, I actually find it quite wearable on the strap, even on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. There is an unguarded crown at 3, and then a helium escape valve on the opposite side at 9, as this watch is rated for an intense 600 meters of water resistance. While it definitely has wrist presence, I found that even though it's 15.5 millimeters in height, it's nicely broken up visually between the mid case and the bezel. Now, the stock bracelet is really nice, but even when I took out all of the links, I wasn't able to get a good fit on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. That said, it is a nice mesh bracelet that starts at 22 millimeters and does not taper. The mesh is high polish, but the clasp is brushed and signed with the Ocean Crawler name and logo. The clasp is double push to point with a nicely milled scissor. It also has a quick adjust system that has a nice 12 millimeters of adjustment spread across 5 positions. And then sizing was a snap because this uses screw links and the screws are quite large, which makes them very easy to unthread and rethread. Now, fortunately, this watch also came with a fitted rubber strap since the bracelet was a bit too big for me. The strap makes a very nice tight fit to the head of the watch and starts at 22 millimeters before tapering down to 20 millimeters. The rubber is soft and pliable and has a textured backing. The hardware is solid and has a nice brushed finish. This watch is really comfortable on this fitted rubber strap. The screw-down caseback helps provide 600 meters of water resistance and has one of the coolest reliefs I have ever seen on a watch. The level of detail is incredible, and the whole scene is deeply set into the caseback. It depicts a battle between a kraken and a trident-wielding hero. This watch is powered by the Sellita SW200, which is a hacking, hand-winding, 28,800 vibration per hour movement with a power reserve of 38 hours and a stated accuracy of plus or minus 12 seconds a day. It also features a quick set date. And this one's running between +9 and +13 with the dial up, and between -3 and -7 with the crown up. The 7 millimeter screw down crown is deeply knurled and signed. The threading and unthreading action is buttery smooth, but oddly requires very few turns. I would say only 2.5 to 3 rotations of the crown for it to deploy and also screw back down. Now, this isn't an issue, it's just not something I'm used to. Other than that, I love 7 millimeter crowns. It just makes operating the watch so much easier overall. The flat sapphire crystal is an impressive 4 millimeters thick, and I assume this has something to do with the fact that this is a 600 meter water resistance watch. It is also treated with an anti-reflective coating. I think a flat crystal here was definitely the right choice, as this is already a thick watch at 15.5 millimeters, and I think a domed crystal would add too much height. The 120 click unidirectional bezel has a nice chunky grip. There is also plenty of surface area to hold on to. The action is tactile and consistent, and everything lines up nicely at 12. The insert is sapphire and the bezel is fully lumed. I think sapphire inserts look really cool and have the added benefit of being extremely scratch resistant. Now, there's quite a bit happening on this dial. First of all, the dial is extremely deep set, which looks really cool. The edge of the dial is yellow and each of the 5-minute positions are labeled with Arabic numerals. An applied high polished diamond filled with lume is present for each of the hour positions and resides right on the border between the yellow edge of the dial and the textured brown interior. That interior section of the dial has this 3D pattern, and then there's another set of high polish applied indices adjacent to the diamonds that also have their own lume plot. Now, Ocean Crawler and the applied Ocean Crawler logo reside at 12, with Core Diver, Automatic, and the depth rating at 6, just above the framed date window. Now, I love the 6 o'clock date used here because it preserves the overall symmetry of the dial. Despite being quite busy, I think this dial is actually quite legible. The hour and minute hand are orange and filled with lume. They They are both of adequate length, with the minute hand reaching all the way to the yellow edge of the dial, and the hour hand just grazing the hour indices. The long white second hand has a lollipop counterbalance, and then an orange arrow at the tip that matches the hour and minute hands. And here is the Lume, which includes that bezel. It's bright and responsive and does keep close pace to the Seiko on the right. And here is the watch on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. Now this is kind of at the edge of what I think I can pull off, but I don't think it looks that bad here. Pros and cons, starting with the pros. Well, first, I absolutely love the caseback on this watch. The level of detail is extraordinarily high, and it's really like a miniature work of art on the back of this watch. Second, the Lume on this watch is excellent, and the fully lumed sapphire bezel is a nice touch. Third, while the clasp is a bit chunky, it has a really excellent quick adjust feature built in. And then finally, the rubber strap fits perfectly with the head of the watch and is a great alternative to the bracelet. Now, most of my cons are a personal preference, and the first is just this colorway. I'm not a fan of it. I could probably live with the brown, but I think using both orange and yellow, those two colors kind of clash with each other. The second complaint is this is clearly a large watch, and unfortunately I was not able to get a good fit on the bracelet. Third, I don't like the lack of minute markings around the edge of the dial. It's probably silly, but I like to be able to tell the time to the exact minute. Now, as for comparables, there are no shortage of divers at this price point. For another 600-meter diver, you could consider the Christopher Ward, which is about the same price and comes in 40 and 42mm versions. For a vintage-inspired diver with a sapphire insert, you could consider the Zodiac Super Seawolf 53, which I have a review of and I'll link to in the upper right-hand corner. For a bit more, you could go with the new Seiko Willard, which also has a cushion-style case. And then finally, for around half the price, you could go with a Steinhardt watch, which is always a great choice, and they even make it in this larger size of 44mm. So there you have it, the Ocean Crawler Core Diver. What do you think about this watch? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, if you're enjoying the contents of this channel, I invite you to subscribe, and if you like the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. That's all for this time. My name is Jason, and you have been watching Just Watches.